Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Sharon Bown, and joining us this evening from the Royal Australian Air Force is leading aircraftsman Joshua Leonard. We warmly welcome Group Captain Sandra Riley, representing the Director of Defence Force Nursing, and the accompanying nursing delegation representing Navy, Army, and Air Force Nursing Services. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching a broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, would you now please stand and join in singing the national anthem? Those requiring a seat, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Matron Irene Melville Drummond. Irene Drummond was born on the 26th of July 1905 at Ashfield in Sydney, the daughter of marine engineer Cedric Drummond and his wife Catherine Melville. Drummond attended the Dominican Convent in Semaphore, Adelaide, and the Convent of Mercy at Broken Hill. In 1924, she began training as a nurse at Miss Lawrence's private hospital in Adelaide. Later, she qualified in obstetrics at Queen's Home Hospital, and after working in private nursing, she returned to work at the Broken Hill and District Hospital as sister in charge of the medical ward. Here, she was known as a compassionate and extremely competent nurse. By the time war broke out, she was working as assistant and often acting as matron. In November 1940, Drummond enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force. Before leaving for service, she was presented with a leather riding case and a travelling rug by the staff at Broken Hill and District Hospital, while her trainees also bestowed parting gifts. She was soon appointed to the 4th Casualty Clearing Station of the Australian Army Nursing Service, and in February 1941 embarked on the Queen Mary for Singapore. Here she worked on the Malay Peninsula, chiefly with the 9th Field Ambulance, transferring to the 13th Australian General Hospital in September with the rank of Major. She was with the AGH in Johor when the Japanese attacked. Once the fall of Singapore became inevitable, most Australian personnel were evacuated from the island, but the 13th AGH remained until the 12th of February, when they too were evacuated. Drummond was one of the 65 Australian nurses who left Singapore aboard the SS Vinya Brook. 2 days later, the ship was bombed by the Japanese and many lives were lost. Drummond was among those who escaped the sinking in a lifeboat which made for the nearby Banker Island. Some of the survivors travelled on foot to the nearest port to formally surrender to the Japanese, but Drummond was among the 22 Australian nurses who remained on the beach to tend to the wounded. On the morning of the 16th of February, a group of Japanese soldiers arrived and in 3 stages ordered the wounded around a headland where they were killed. The nurses left behind could guess at the fate that awaited them, and flight was proposed. Matron Drummond reminded everyone that they could not abandon the remaining patients, adding, "Where there is life, there is hope." The rest of the survivors were ordered to walk into the sea. When the water reached their waists, the Japanese opened fire with machine guns. As they walked into the sea, Drummond said to her sisters, "I'm proud of you and I love you all." Of the 22 Australian nurses ordered into the sea, all but one were killed, including Irene Drummond. She was 36 years old. At Broken Hill, the community unveiled the Sister Irene Drummond Memorial Park in October 1949. Her memory was also honoured at the schools she attended as a girl, with a memorial bookcase presented to the Dominican Covenant with a photograph and inscription written by her mother. Drummond was mentioned in dispatches in 1946 and promoted to Lieutenant Colonel. Irene Drummond is commemorated on the Singapore Memorial. On a plaque dedicated in 1947 in the Nurses' Chapel of the Royal Australian Adelaide Hospital, the inscription reads, "In loving memory of South Australian members of the Australian Army Nursing Service who made the supreme sacrifice, killed by Japanese, World War 1939-1945. Her name is also listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. Her photograph is displayed beside the pool of reflection. This is one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Matron Irene Melville Drummond, who gave her life for us, for our freedoms, and in hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you all for visiting the Australian War Memorial today, and thank you for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.